McClellan. This is my brother Ryan McClellan and my dad Dan. And special guest today in studio as well is Zeke.
I'll become the family psychiatrist at halftime.
Yeah. Dad's like, don't worry, it's really early. I'm like, what the heck is
Calm
going
down,
on today?
We're in the natty, baby.
I know I was in church when I seen the alert go off, and so I gave an extra hallelujah.
Yes, sir.
So it makes you feel very appreciative that he joined us today.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky.
It must be worth my time. And
You made such a big impact about your life with Jesus Christ and the way that you love God and the way you show it every day. And you're starting to see this, the younger generation that might have looked up to you when you played.
Yeah.
And now what they're doing with Ohio State just did, I'd like to just hear your
we
comment.
should all treat people like Danielle treats people.
Absolutely. Yeah, amen.
It would be a better place.
This podcast is brought to you by Slate Mocha Latte, 20 grams of protein in every can.
We should use Percy 10. All proceeds go to.
Thanks so much for tuning in. He's like, I'm
I
not
used
even
to-
going to look at that part.
And I will say the best way
He
to
has
talk
a
to
face for
someone,
radio.
I was going to experiment something, but I didn't want to experiment too much before we started recording.
He's like, guys, I love what you have going on here, but I brought new audio,
New video.
different video.
We're going to change up the whole
I hope you don't mind it, but the mic. I know you're excited about your
No,
mic.
it wasn't changing.
Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to the MacCast. Very special episode today. We got a special guest in studio here. He's kind of in the enemy's den, red and black everywhere, but hopefully take it easy on him, friends and family.
Please take it easy.
I'm Jason McClellan, joined always by my brother Ryan, and today we have a very special guest, Perci Garner, in the house. So we're looking forward to getting this. He's going to join us for our typical banter of our segment, and we're going to have a little Q&A there at the end. Got some interesting questions, some grilling stuff, but
a whole list of it.
yeah. So for those of you who don't know who Perci Garner is, where you been? No, but on the reality, we got, he's a local hero, football and community wise. I would wrap that up. And then he went on to a fantastic baseball career. Very, I'd love to tackle a little bit more about that here soon, because collegiate and pro career, both awesome. I got some really interesting questions. I've always wanted to know about the minor guys. They seem like baseball dudes 100%. So I'm looking forward to hearing your.
Just watch Bull Durham. No,
Yeah, I think maybe that's what said it. I'm like, they all must be like this. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have you here. I know Ryan's excited to have you here. And I'm sure our listeners are definitely excited to see you.
Well, I'm excited to be here and all this Chicago Bulls decoration you got here. Oh, my bad. New Philly.
Yeah, so obviously my kids go to Philly and they use this room a lot more than I do.
There you go.
So we went red and black. I bleed red and black. I think everything I own is red and black. It helps that
Except
it's...
your address.
Yes. That's not... So for those of you at home, I actually...
He threw you down dirty there.
I know. I actually live in Dover. Funny story, when I first got the opportunity, because Mike Johnson went to Church of New Philly First Christian, and I had the privilege of coaching baseball with him and his boys. And it was coach pitch, and he would throw some no-hitters. But
I was on that coaching staff as
you
well.
were on
Thanks.
that coaching
Dang,
staff.
come on. Give the credit where the credit's
Actually,
due.
that's where all the credit lies. But he's like, hey, would you like the opportunity? Well, he didn't present it like that. And he was like, hey, you want to help coach football? And I was like, heck yeah, that sounds awesome. And he's like, well, it's a volunteer position. And he's like, but, we could probably find a spot for you. So I went in. We're in the weight room. Everybody's lifting. And I knew that I had lived in Dover, but I didn't want to really be out forefront with that.
Yeah.
I was really
My
glad-
bad. I didn't know it was a private. Cut that.
No, it's all right. Leave it in.
I was about to say, in Google's age, I get fan mail to this day at my address.
Yeah.
Like, dang, how they know my home? But
Well, not to the point where I'm getting fan mail yet, so I can keep my address a little secret. But when I leave the weight room, and they had somebody was in there. I forget who it was. One of the coaches was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "So Dover, huh? You guys really? Oh, we can't. I don't even buy gas in Dover." And I'm like, "Okay, Woody Hayes." So I go to the top of the park. You know how you go up the hill of the park, and if you turn left, you're heading towards Dover. If you turn right, you're going to Philly. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Seth Watson. He was coming up behind. A man that he would not care if I lived in Dover or not. He does care about the rivalry, but not enough that, if I'm paying taxes in Dover. But long story short, I actually turned the blinker right and went towards Philly and took the long way to Dover because I didn't want to have that be my first Like, who's the new guy? Not only that, why is he so loud? And why does he live in Dover? So it was.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that.
But now, it's a little red, black, little Philly. And it's not quite all the way to Dover. Yeah. That's what I tell everybody. It's still close enough to Philly. But
yeah, I got a hot take on this whole Dover Philly thing.
Let's hear it.
I feel like we're teaching our kids early to hate.
That's a very good point.
And you start with high school rivalries. Then it goes to college, Ohio State, Michigan, which is okay. They're the team up north. You still hate them. But no, I'm But it's just like, and then it just grows and grows. And I know no one's like intentionally looking at it like that. But I just, over the last, 2024 is when I made this revelation. I was like, So I've been on this thing, and now at my position, which we'll get into at Rainbow Connection, the whole Tuscarawas County is who I serve.
Right.
And New Philly donates the most. So,
yes, go Quakers! I know it's a competition
by far.
Two schools.
Well, and I try not to make it a competition. It's really not a competition. Philly's way ahead of everybody. Claremont does a good job though, compared to their size, compared to New Philly.
Really? Okay, very cool.
I would say, however you want to say, per capita, it's pretty close. But Philly just blows everyone away. But my main goal is just to make sure people know that we're a resource. It's not who raises the most money, but we're grateful that you guys do, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Like, I play into it, make jokes.
Sure, yeah.
I had a girlfriend who actually is the reason why I'm at First Christian Church, Elizabeth Corns.
Oh.
Well, it's not Corns anymore. It's Renner. And they still go to the church. So she's the reason in 7th grade we were dating, or whatever you call that.
I like you. You like me.
Yeah.
Couple notes.
Yeah, and she brought me to youth group when Jamie was down there,
and
the rest is history. Been going there for 20 plus years now.
That's awesome.
I love New Philly First Christian Church.
So through all of this, even though Percy's in Dover, bleeds the Reds in the scarlet and gray. He goes to Philly First Christian Church. He works in Philly. It's a community at all of it.
For sure.
Yes.
And Percy lives through that, it seems like, through church, through God's eyes, through his own personal life. It doesn't let this stuff affect him. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, we just want people to know that we're all a community.
For sure.
And it takes everyone. It doesn't take just like one red school, one black school, one gray school.
Yeah, and that's, in today's age, I will say this. I remember back in Maddox's youth basketball days. And, it might even have been 7th or 8th grade, so middle school, big deal. We're playing Dover. The kid is on the foul line. He makes his 2 shots, and Mad Dog goes over and dabs him up. And as the youth, I don't even think I wasn't coaching him at that point, but in my head, I'm like, "What are you doing, man? That's the opponent." But that was his friend.
Yeah.
And because of the internet, because of
it's a different time too.
They're actually, they know each other a lot more than what probably when you went to school. I know they know a lot more. Each other a little bit more than when I was in high school. And the other thing is Ryan and I come from Tusky Valley, so we're outsiders when it comes to that rivalry. We're outsiders actually when it comes to those communities sometimes too. But the biggest take back that I've seen is that I see 2 wonderful communities that come together for their kids.
Amen.
And when you see those Dover Philly rivalries, it's a rivalry, but I see a community full of people that are supporting the kids.
Yeah.
Does that sometimes get lost? Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes people forget that they are just kids, and we'll get to that too because you got some young bloods, and I imagine coaching and athletics might be in the future, maybe not. But if so, how are you planning to tackle that as a dad / coach? Because to me, it has personally affected, I think, Maddox a little bit. I think that he has chosen to try other sports, which is awesome. But I sometimes think, man, I hope it's not because of something I did. Like, for instance, he's playing tennis. He's teaching me a little bit about tennis. I know nothing. I go to his tennis match. He gets in the car. I'm like, hey, great match, right? And he was like, yeah. I was like, did you have a good time? He's like, yeah. And that's it.
Yeah.
Versus, I know there's been times in his life where there's been rides home. And I'm like, hey, dude, the bases are loaded. We don't swing at the first pitch. We're a little bit more, situational, stuff like that. Yeah. And he never really got to escape that. Yeah. And so I wonder if that's going to be the same obstacle for you, or how do your plan on that?
Well, I think for Perce, it was difficult because I didn't coach him in baseball. I coached him in flag football and soccer, believe it or not.
Percy's a big soccer fan, by the way, if you don't know this.
I'll tell you what, if I see you running down the field with a soccer ball, I'm getting out of the way. Give this guy the net.
Well, I was a little late to the soccer game. You know, when you're playing football, you look at the soccer players when you're in high school, like, you know.
Competitive fall sport.
Yeah. And
you
you're
could
like,
be better as a receiver, but whatever.
Well, we rely on them as kickers.
For sure.
For sure.
So does Philly, too.
Well, we didn't have to, though. We had Matt Reinhart, who's like a Hall of Fame kicker at college level. But
Name drop.
But I will say, coaching is. I've tried to be like chill as much as I can. You're not, you know, Krista yells at them more than I do at the sporting events.
Interesting.
Krista yell at any kid. But
Hustle!
sometimes I have to move my seat. I'm like, all right, we're going over here.
That's too funny.
But she some may say she's more competitive than me. But if you ever come over to play cards, you know, since you live so far away from my house,
Yeah. I think it's
you'll
like
see that she'll cheat.
I think it's a blocker too.
Yeah. But no, I would say I've been like, I think it's also knowing your kids. Like Peyton, she is kind of like me, really, on a lot of levels. Obviously she gets her looks from her mom, thank God. But like with sports, she's all about it. Always. You know, we got a hoop in her room, hoop in the basement. We're getting a new one outside because the net's gone because of, you know, the tornado we almost had just here.
Oh, I thought maybe, I'm like, dang, she is shooting a lot.
I wanted to give her the credit.
She burned through the first net. We got to get
We actually did get a new net.
Okay.
One of her friends for her birthday party in the basement one. It's got LED lights on it. She loves turning those on and playing.
Cool.
And we have to make some shots before we go to bed. But I say that just because I say we have to, but she wants to do that. She's always like, Dad, we forgot to do our shots because she's got the hoop on the back of her door. But Perce, I realized it early. Where I'm just like, okay, he's not live and die sports. He plays them. He enjoys them. Mm-hmm. You know, he plays. I was like, he played baseball, and I'm like, you got to play 1 year kid pitch, please. And he did. And he had a horrible experience. I'd never seen anxiety in a kid where I was just like, I might actually let him quit midseason. But I did not. I was like, you got to finish. Yeah, because he was just getting beaned. It started off by, there's a kid, and his last name is Vaughn, but he put his first name is Vaughn, but he put Vaughn on the back of his jersey, number 99.
Rick Vaughn, baby.
Yes.
Wow,
and he's a great athlete, but he was one of the very first pitchers that Perce faced, and he throws hard.
Yeah.
And he hit Perce. And from that point on, Perce was just like, this is not. He dreaded going to the park.
He wasn't buying it. Hey, you did it. We took one for the team. No. He was like, I didn't ask.
He did earn a nickname. He was Ball Magnet, but he got hit by the two hardest throwing pitchers that year, and
left-handed, right-handed.
Right-handed.
Okay.
He does some things left. Peyton's all left. Throws, writes, eats, everything.
She shoot left?
Yeah. Huh?
She shoot left?
Yeah. Shoots left-handed. Yep. Dribbles. Because someone after her basketball game came up like, wow, she's really good with her left hand. I'm like, she's left-handed. But no, I think it's just knowing your child. Mm-hmm. And for me, I liked having constructive criticism all the time. I liked hearing my dad, Coach Ift, Bob Von Kennel. They all were similar. My dad didn't yell at me for sports, but just around the house stuff. Boy, clean your room. Do this. You know? And then it translated to Bob and Coach Ift, the same thing on the field. Like, I just came to expect that. And I noticed early on that Perce, that's not how we go about that. You know, I asked him, like, hey, soccer season's coming up. He loves soccer. And he said, I was like, do you want to practice, get ready for the season, you know, or you just want to have fun this year? He's like, I just want to have fun. I'm like, well, you know, it'd be really fun if you're like really good.
Yeah. It's a lot more fun when you're better.
And he's like, oh, we'll see. So I'm like, all right, you know, I'll let him. And I was a late bloomer, so he could be a late bloomer, but Peyton is just, she's about it. And maybe I skipped a generation because I was football, baseball. Both of my parents, phenomenal basketball players. Like my mom went to college for basketball. My mom was
college?
Walsh.
Okay.
She graduated.
Shout out to Teresa.
Yep, there we go.
All right.
She went to West Mosquito. We didn't have all this nutritional stuff when I was, you know, I was eating terrible, wasn't taking care of my body. Or maybe I just didn't apply myself. I don't know. I like to say.
I still, even though there's tons of nutritional stuff available, I'm still mistreated.
Well, yeah, those things are more expensive.
Exactly. I don't have the budget for that.
But when I got to the big leagues, we had a chef. So then I had no more excuses.
Gotcha.
But but yeah, it had to skip a generation. I was okay. I talked down my basketball game, but my mom and dad were elite. So, I was okay. I was very good at setting picks and getting rebounds. And then AKA not very good. But yeah, Peyton, she's and it's that proud dad moment where someone else's daughter who's good.
Yes.
He makes a remark about your child, and they're like, they're assuming they're a certain age. And I'm like, oh, at the time she was 5. He's like, what? She's 5? He's like, my daughter's 7. I was like, yeah, we're blessed. What can I say? But no, but I'm trying to you got to be careful with both situations. I don't want to burn her out, but I'm very excited to see kind of if she keeps this. She's got a photo of my older brother who's probably around your age. He graduated 96, 97.
Jeez, you're aging me, man. I graduated 01.
Oh, so you're not that old. Okay.
Well, I'm actually closer to your age, I think.
Anyways, sorry about that.
That's all right. And my hips don't disagree because they hurt, and they don't lie, but they be hurting.
They don't. I was just about to say something about Shakira, but yeah. Before I make this whole long drawn out thing, you just gotta read each one. With Percy, I gotta read it as he's not that serious about it. Let's just let him have fun. And I'm not one of those parents that's going to be like really ashamed if my son isn't dominating every facet of every sport. Yeah. Right. We have those. But to answer your question, I'm not too serious about the coaching thing. I like coaching them when they're young or whatever, and just seeing how they are. It's funny and how they react to certain situations. But I don't know if I'm ever going to be like, when it's time to get real serious, middle school, high school, if I'm going to be like coaching. Not sure. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird crossroads because I think, it's not like people were seeking me out to coach youth sports. So a lot of times they just need volunteers. Yeah. And so then you're like, okay, I'll try. And you go and you see a dad, he's doing the best he can. But you're like, I don't know if this is going to be a beneficial season or not. Yep.
Had those. I actually just came out of those. Not going to go into details about it.
Right.
But.
And they happen.
Yeah.
They do happen. And there is a lot of pressure because you're like, this could ruin the sport for my kid, but you don't really rule in the fact of your impact. But also, when they're looking for volunteers and they're thinking about qualifications, they didn't do this to me, but I would imagine if you're in the room, everybody be looking.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we're going to need some coaches, especially like if it's baseball, but I want guess who my kid's playing for? Yeah. So I didn't know if that comes into.
Oh, it doesn't matter if I played it or not. The only one I haven't been approached for is swimming. So. Okay. All right. But we're not going to go into that joke, but I haven't been asked to help coach swimming.
I just got No.
But every other sport, they're trying to compare
for
it.
Sure.
Like, Mr. Lafredo, he's a big soccer guy. He's always asking me, like, hey, just use your basketball knowledge in soccer. Yeah. I'm like, I know a little bit of soccer, but I also want time to... I still got to prioritize things, like playing video games. No, I'm joking. Like, if
I coach, I can't get this level.
My faith journey is what I was really going for. But, it's my hobby. So,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So I'm just glad video games aren't looked at as a degenerate activity anymore. No. But now it's like, okay, they're giving scholarships away. Akron University's winning national championships. So
CSGO.
Yeah. So Jason's like, what? But yeah,
I want to see the athletes. Like, let's get their 40 times. Vertical.
That would be hilarious.
I think they should compete in some kind of combine events. Just. All right, Steve on the controller today. He's got a 40 time of 6.7.
It's about reaction, though.
I know. Oh, his thumbs are the fastest.
They are.
Are you serious?
It's ridiculous. And me being an actual athlete.
Yeah.
Well, they call esports. I'm sorry. Esports athletes are athletes too. But I'm saying being an athlete of a sport and then going into video games and just having to accept the fact that I can't react to the screen like this kid who weighs 80 pounds.
Yeah. Is that why I get destroyed on Madden online and some 5th graders talking trash? And like, give your controller back to your son. You got no business playing. And I was like, how?
You never played against LeBron?
Who?
LeBron.
No.
Oh, he takes it serious sometimes.
Like
too.
online?
Yeah.
He's out there where you
He's
can just
ranked
play,
top
you
100
you can just
Madden.
play LeBron?
Yeah.
You could just go up and say, hey, I want to challenge. I bet he's got a bunch of gaming.
Well, it's random. I don't think you can just. But Anthony Davis was talking about how serious he is. He'll get back. He'll make sure. He said, I got to get my Madden in. Can't lose my rank. And I'm like, if a guy like that's got time, like what the
he
heck?
can make time. Yeah.
That's true. That's crazy.
But yeah.
Well, let's just keep it with your athlete there.
Okay.
You went to Ball State.
Yeah.
You had a great career at Dover there.
Yeah.
Are their school records still there before we move on from it?
that's
Are your
great.
school records still in place? at
Some
Dover?
of them. I know.
7 touchdowns in one game.
I think that's going to be there for a while. I hate this. Sounds kind of selfish, but sometimes I'm like, we were playing Philly the next week, and I got respect for Indian Valley, but they were doing some questionable things.
Okay.
Their pride was challenged. We scored. I didn't throw an incomplete pass that game, to my knowledge.
Okay.
But it was a blur. It was one of those games where I'm just like, coach is like, hey, you're not playing second half. Coach If was like that, and I'm like, what? Then I was like, oh, I just threw 7 touchdowns. We're up 49-0. Like
In the first half.
yes, and the game was going so well. I overthrew one teammate and still threw a touchdown to another receiver. That's how good it was going.
You didn't even plan it that
I
way.
threw it. I was like, oh yeah. So it was a great game, but I didn't get to play the second half. And therefore, at that time, I was under, I think, Joe Namath and Joe Montana for the national high school record for touchdowns in a game.
That's insane.
And I was like, the record was 9
Okay.
for the game, and I was at 7 for the half.
And he took you out.
Yeah, but hey, now I wouldn't do that against Indian Valley. This Indian Valley team that we just played, that was just playing this year.
No, man.
They beat Dover. That was my first time them ever beating Dover in my memory. So
That's crazy. And they've been playing some great football. That it's Mark Lancaster over there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a fantastic job.
yeah, I was following them, watching them. I was like, oh, this is
This
amazing.
year, that Grady Kinsey.
Kinsey's a beast.
And
Yeah, he's
got
kind of a good athlete, right?
It's a dedication. He lives and breathes in that weight room.
That's what I've heard from the kids.
Yeah.
That he is in the weight room.
It's
all
good
the
to hear that from his peers.
When you hear it from his peers, that's where you really know the truth
Yeah.
about what character that kid has. Because, and it happens at the collegiate level too. I'm
Yeah,
sure. 'Cause
for
you're
sure.
like, man, that kid's.
And just a quick story about him. I was at the WGZ Big Z Sports End of the Year show, and he was nominated, obviously,
Of course, for
Player of the Year.
85 awards, probably.
And he came with his parents, and he was just so humble, and he was very appreciative of even the server that was serving him. He kept saying "thank you, please" and stuff like that.
That's what's up.
So he's just an all-around great kid.
That's awesome.
And that's what sets him apart. I feel like sometimes.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
I've had I don't remember coaching against Kinsey, but a lot of those kids in Indian Valley were in that same circle because Mad Dog's a sophomore. So that Riker kid, I remember, going up against them in basketball tournaments and different things like that. Those are some athletic kids. You got Bradley Bars over there. I wish I knew the roster better because I think all of them should be named. How awesome for our community to bring a state championship in football.
Yeah, it goes back to what you were talking about earlier, or what Ryan was talking about earlier. How even though we have our rivalries, when a team from the community is going far, you kind of you start cheering for them and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. So.
In the softball world, Strasburg, they've been there so many times.
Yeah, Dover just beat Strasburg though.
Dover softball is playing lights out. I'm not going to comment too much on softball right now because I am a volunteer for the new Philly softball program.
Okay, there we go. We'll keep
I
it. Yeah.
had to step down we didn't have enough for a JV program anyways. But the new job, teaching special education at high school requires so much out of the classroom work for me. And this new conference we're in, which Dover's on their way to the OCC. A lot of times she has to leave school early to travel.
Oh yeah,
That just
I'm noticing that.
doesn't really fit into my whole realm. Where middle school football,
Yeah,
I don't have to be anywhere until after school. And on Friday nights, I have a very important job to get back coach. But I can drive separate and leave after school as well, so I don't have to leave early.
there we go. Yeah, it is crazy how the stuff is everything. My nephew Brady, he's got to post his own stuff on social media now. Like coaches really don't go see guys. I'm like, that is crazy.
The softball world is definitely different. College coaches talk to high school coaches, but not as much as they talk to certain travel coaches. Or you'll see GAs coaching the elite travel teams at the state levels. And so they have a a direct connection with a lot of the recruits already that commit. So it's definitely changed the dynamic of that sports world a little bit.
Yeah.
I see it. Everything ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So it'll probably come back to where there's a little bit more communication.
Hopefully.
But yeah.
I just, specifically, Dover had a pitcher, Brennan McCune. He's at Toledo right now, and I think he's going to be going into the draft. But to my mind, where I was, when I was having professional scouts at my high school game, I had no business. I couldn't tell you where my pitches were going. Like, I think the Brewers are at a game where I threw a complete game shutout against Cambridge, and you're like, oh, that's great. I had 10 walks that game.
Okay.
And the Brewer scout was like, you're a little raw. I'm like, yeah, thank you for saying it that way.
Yeah, because they probably might have helped you a little bit.
Well, yeah,
ground you a little
but
bit.
in my mind, I didn't need grounding. I was like, I'm not going to go pitch against Barry Bonds. I didn't know how baseball worked. I thought if I got drafted out of high school,
You're getting out there.
I was going to be facing Barry. And I'm like, nah, he's too good to be in video games. That's how you know someone's good.
Yeah.
Like, because Jordan and Barry are like the two athletes that weren't in video games. So you're like, okay. So that was my fear. I didn't know there were 6 minor league
Bo
levels.
Jackson was.
Yeah, Bo Jackson. Well, he's a different thing. I look at him and Deion Sanders as like different humans.
breeds, yeah.
They're
Unbelievable human beings.
yeah. I don't know what it was, but
You were so basically you were a kid.
Yeah.
And you were still a kid in your mind as
For
well.
sure, for sure.
And in baseball, they seem to recruit early. You got a lot of kids coming out of high school going to the draft. What's your opinion on that? Do you think it's a little too early, or do you think?
No, I mean, I think it does depend on the sport. Obviously, I don't think football. I feel like you have to see how this individual is going to mature physically, because it's such a not like basketball is obviously a physically demanding sport.
Sure,
but football is just a whole nother level. Basketball, I feel bad for the kids nowadays. You got to be like a freak of nature to be even associated with basketball.
8 feet tall.
And you got to be able to dribble like you're Allen Iverson.
And coordinated. Yeah. Usually it goes the other way. Like if you're this tall, you're not coordinated. You'll trip on the walk to the mailbox.
I think I just saw a middle schooler who's 7'3". Yeah, and they're obviously. But
they're on. Is that at Dover, by the way?
Huh?
Is that at Dover?
No, I wish. Oh my gosh, Coach Vonkin will come out of retirement for that. He's like, all right, sorry, son.
Funny story. So my Aunt Jody took Bob Von Kennel was the PE teacher at Baldwin Elementary School, so he was a Tusky Valley guy.
Oh yeah.
And when he took the Dover job, he left, and Jody filled his spot. I didn't realize that Von Kennel's thing. Because Von Kennel was a Tusky Valley guy, coached Tusky Valley too.
I knew that.
Yeah.
Tusky Valley. I feel like is now. I see a lot of basketball players at the collegiate level. I'm watching. One of my good friends is the coach at Wilmington College D3 school. They play against Muskingum, Mount, all those schools, and from my experience, Muskingum always has a guy who can shoot from half court, and it's from Tusky Valley. I'm like, what do they do there? They just
a lot of buzzer beater games, bud. A lot of buzzer beater games.
But
and I think they do a half court shot, John.
There we go.
I'm just kidding. No, there's some athletes coming from Tusky Valley. I know they got a couple big guys, football and stuff.
Well, I know the Jay guy who's actually coaching at Indian Valley. I think he was from Tusky Valley. Went to West Virginia. My wife's good friends with his wife, and we hang out at least once a year at Halloween every year.
Okay.
Jay's hilarious.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some good athletes coming from Tusky Valley. Obviously, Ryan McClellan, one of the better ones to come through the.
Why is he chuckling?
Well,
wait, by the way,
he literally busted through the gate of the football field.
Dude,
do you remember that, Ryan?
That's an offside conversation.
He slipped on
low ice. What year did you graduate? How much younger are you?
We're 10 years apart. I graduated in 13.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
damn, you are.
Well, I graduated in 01, so we're about 12.
Yeah.
School wise, but I think age wise, we're I was a little bit older.
Gotcha. Okay. Dang, nice.
Still
I didn't. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't. That must be nice. I was getting out, going to a city council meeting, and one of our fellow council members was like, "Hey, how you doing, person?" I was getting out of my car at the same time, and I made this sound that only I feel like someone that is either old or really out of shape.
That's what happens, man.
I'm getting up. I should have waited before I said hi, but I was like,
"Hey!" That's the dad noise, man.
What was that sound that just came out?
It's a dad.
But no, I just I wanted to, I don't think I finished my point on how
the,
crazy, because the other kid, I was talking about how terrible I was at that age and how I was thinking that, I cannot play professional baseball. But then Brendan McCune, who is at Toledo now, he threw a perfect game in the tournament. And there was no scouts there. I told my agent, who I love, and I had a dual agent, but the guy who lives in Cincinnati, his name's Jonathan Maurer. I'm like, Jonathan, you have to come watch this kid. And there's no college scouts there or coaches or staff or nothing. And I'm like, no one's seeing this. And it's no disrespect to he's still, he went to Toledo Division I MAC.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to the MAC.
Yes, but I'm just like, he was throwing 96. He knew where the ball was going. Why is there no pro scouts here? So that boggled my mind. Even college, no one's there to see this. And I'm like, throwing a perfect game in a tournament game is unheard of.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then you got me, who's pro scouts are at, and I'm walking 10 guys. So like,
so would you say that was a big jump for you from high school to college, was your ability to place? Is placement still an issue?
No, when I think my break from baseball helped. So if we get into that a little bit, because a lot of people don't know the timeline, and it's a freaky story and how it all happened. I don't know if I've ever told you though, where when I wanted to go to Ohio State, and we might touch on Ohio State later, and I have a little bit of a grudge, but I also love Jim Trussell because he was just straight up and 100% honest with me.
Okay.
And I don't know if a coach would have been if I would have ended up walking on Ohio State and never playing. So it would have been bad if he didn't just, because they had Terrell Pryor who was a year behind me, and he didn't say his name, but he was just like, hey, we got a guy coming. You're not going to play.
He turned out pretty good.
Yeah, he was all right. But
he could always join us too if you ever wanted to. I think he's around the area somewhere. It's probably a couple hour drive, not too far though.
Well, you guys don't do any.
I guess we could go on site. We'll come to Pennsylvania. He's a PA guy, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so we travel.
Yeah, but
you kidding? This equipment travels, no
problem. But no, like the thing I was thinking of is my journey there. So I thought I was going to, I got my first offer was from Ohio University. And in my mind, I saw Frank Solich was going to be their head coach. He was coming from Nebraska. So I looked at that as, well, he's on the down slope. He's coming from Nebraska to Ohio. He's not, he's not trending in the right direction. Mm-hmm. That's how I was thinking as a athlete. Yeah. And I wasn't thinking baseball at all because you can't get a full ride. Well, you can, but it's very rare for you to get a full ride for baseball. They have like 11 scholarships. Football has 85.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know we can't pay for college. Football's the direction for me. I had Illinois, a lot of different colleges come into my house for baseball, but I was like, I want to play both, maybe just football. So guy drives all the way from Champaign, Illinois to come to my house, and I'm like, I don't know, man,
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of decisions I made that I'm just like, what were you doing, you dummy? But it all worked out. But yeah, so I go to Ball State, was kind of last. It was like a last minute thing.
Okay.
They already recruited Daniel. He already committed there, and I'm kind of making fun of him. I'm like, Ball State.
Yeah,
what is that? As a teenager in high school.
Where's Champaign, man?
Pop in a year later. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, this is great. This place is awesome.
Well, this is how it all happened. There was other schools that were offering, but I didn't want to go too far away. I was in love. Good thing we married, and it all worked out. I'd be kicking myself because, I turned down like Florida Atlantic and I saw their campus and I was like, oh my God.
It's amazing.
Yes.
The weather would have sold it. But yeah.
Amazing. But, I married and it all worked out.
And I think you outkicked your coverage. So it was worth sticking close.
Exactly. But, I do have a strong foot. So, but I was a backup punter behind Ryan Hart. No. But no, when I went to Ball State, it was like all these other things fell through. There were schools looking at me like Southern, HBCU, in Louisiana. That was too far. Florida Atlantic, obviously too far. Mm-hmm. Was never going to Eastern Michigan.
Just stepping nowhere in that
offer, but and when I was in college, they were like the worst team, in all of college Division I football. No disrespect.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's time and place. Different chapters. They were in a different chapter of their athletics.
But I ended up I was thinking maybe I'm going to go to Mount Union. but I wasn't going to start right away. They had a national champion at quarterback, and I'm like, if I'm going Division III, I'm starting right away. I'm not going to sit behind someone, which I would obviously well deserve sit behind this 2-time national championship quarterback.
Mount?
Yeah. So
Who was that? Do you remember?
no, I know Pierre Garçon was there.
Pierre. I've heard a lot about him. Because you had, there's another Dover kid
Matt Reeves.
that went to play at Mount. No.
I mean, he was there when
Corey Colliner. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And
Wish I would have got to throw to him. I wasn't quarterback yet.
I was talking to him, and he said that one of the most regimented, hardworking dudes he's ever met was Pierre Garçon.
Oh yeah, Pierre was a beast.
He said we'd be back playing Madden in the dorms or whatever, and he'd get an extra workout in, or he was he was just a grind all the time, and obviously it paid off.
Yeah, those one-handed catches don't just happen by themselves.
Exactly. I think we watch as sports fans, we watch, and but there's a very small amount of people that realize the amount of work that goes into trying to compete at that level, let alone being successful at that level.
Yeah.
And that was his passion, it seemed like, too. Like, he made it to the league. And that was probably a big deal to him when he was a kid, probably.
I mean, we're kind of seeing that with Grady.
Yeah.
Grady Kinsey. He's like, this is what I want to do. And I like that we're driven. I don't like motivated, because motivated is kind of ebbs and flows, like you talked about earlier.
Sure.
Some days you're motivated, sometimes you're not. But if you're driven, it's just like it's there. You don't have to be like, I don't really want to do it today.
And it's not something you coach. It's not something you parent your kid. I think it's just naturally born into who you are as a person. It's in your woven things, and it's great if you don't have a grind either. There's other, there's all kinds of room in the tool belt for different tools. You know what I mean?
So you went through the whole process of your heart was probably set on Ohio State there when you were young, probably, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The picture earlier we showed you were laughing. You're like, I was definitely thought I was going to Ohio State.
Oh yeah. That was the buck nuts.
Long road. You went to Ball State. Mm-hmm. You were recruited as a quarterback, correct?
Yes. But I went there as a walk-on because they had a kid who got kicked off the team, and the spot opened up.
What was it for? Do you remember what he got kicked off for?
I do not. Nope. I just remember thinking, okay, he got kicked off the team, and I heard Nate Davis has a stupid low GPA, like a 0.3. And I'm not trying to throw shade at Nate. That's just what happened.
Right.
And I didn't know how good he was. I didn't know he was going to go on to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I didn't know this. So I'm like, all right, I'll walk on. It was a preferred walk on. I'll preferred walk on to Ball State, and I'll win a job and win a scholarship. It's that easy. And they were the only school that said, hey, we'll let you play both. We'll let you play baseball. I'm like, all right, cool.
Too, right?
And then I got there, and they're like, you're not playing baseball. It's like, wait, what?
He tricked you.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not going to lie. Like, there was other coaches, including Mount Union, that they weren't being totally forthcoming with me. Mm-hmm. So that's just how I guess it went back in those days.
Yeah.
They lied to get you on campus.
Tell him he can play both.
Yes.
Let him. He can do whatever he wants. Just get here.
Yeah.
And then.
So where was the turning moment for you that you transitioned from football to baseball?
Okay. So I've told this story a lot, but I don't think I've told it to you guys. So I'm at Ball State. I'm looking at being the quarterback whenever Nate gets into the draft. I redshirt the first year, and
that's 2009, right?
Yeah. So I get there 2007. The fall of 2007, I redshirt. 2007, 2008.
Okay.
Then 2008, 2009, I get in some blowouts. Krista always makes fun of me, and she's like, "Yeah, we're getting in games, and you were taking knees and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what we."
That's your shining moment.
Time is time.
Yes. I threw one pass. It was incomplete. It was pass interference. It was debatable, but yeah, so 2008, 2009 was the best Ball State season ever.
Okay.
That's when we were 12-0. We were ranked 12th in the nation, all because of the dummy signals I was given on the sideline.
Right. Stallions had no match against you. He's no match.
Exactly. But I started having doubts when we were playing guys like Khalil Mack.
Okay.
And the other dude who went to Northern. That's when I came in to take a knee. I wasn't even running a play. And I just saw this dude at the end, defensive end at Northern Illinois, and I go, I don't know if football is going to be it. Because I shouldn't be feeling afraid. Because my tackle is 6'8", 325, who's going to the NFL, is blocking him. But I'm still looking at, and his name's Greg something. I can't remember it. He might even still be in the NFL anyways.
He played at Ball State?
No, Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois.
Yeah, he was going up against me, and I was like, I think it's time. Because Tom Brady's 6'5", 240. At that time, I'm 6'3", 220, and they make him look like a rag doll. So what am I going to look like if I go to the NFL? So I'm like, yeah, I'm not into it. And at that time, but the thing that really forced me into baseball was Ball State got a guy named Kelly Page who decommitted from Oregon.
It's a big time school.
Oregon Ducks.
Yeah.
To come to Ball State. And I'm like, he's trying to ruin my career. Why would he do this? Why would someone who was committed to Oregon obviously is going to have a leg up against a non-scholarship quarterback like me?
Yes.
So they didn't even do a quarterback competition. They just said, hey, next year we're gonna start Kelly on our exit interviews after our loss to Khalil Mack in Buffalo. And we also lost to Tulsa in the GMAC Bowl. But after that, our exit meetings, they were just like, yeah, we're going to go with Kelly Page. You can be his backup. And I'm like, dude, I'm not being a career backup. And at those times, I'm looking at normal students and I'm like, man, their day seems so much easier.
Yes.
Like I'm getting up 5:30, lifting, going to classes 8 to noon, having lunch, and then I'm at football from 1 to 8.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
we were talking off camera before you got here about that because it has a mental health impact on college age athletes who earn a scholarship, coming from families who didn't have very much, paid a lot of money to get on travel teams to get you recruited. They go to college and then they realize what the college athletic experience is really like.
it's a job.
And then they feel that they're almost, I hate to use the term stuck because it's an honor to play college sports, but if your heart's not there anymore, but you're there on scholarship and you're there to play the sport, it comes some weird waters for kids to navigate who, retrospectively, you were still just a kid. I mean, when you think about college age, they're 18 to 22, and that's still very young.
Oh yeah, your mind's not fully developed. You don't know who you are.
Right.
So it's
so it causes some mental health strain for those scholarship athletes, let alone. But you alluded,
I wasn't even on a scholarship,
right,
but I still felt the pressure. Like I gotta get, I want to be an athlete from Tuscarawas County that makes it and does all this stuff. So I was looking at it like that, and my family, we were, my mom was a felon who couldn't get a job anymore. My dad had passed away at that point, and I'm like, I'm all my family has.
Yeah.
Even though,
even though that's not realistic.
That's not realistic. My older siblings didn't need me to take care of them. My younger siblings did, by the way. But, but no. So, yeah, Ball State, they tell me this. I'm like, I'm going to play baseball. This is dumb. I'm not going to be a career backup here. So,
and Ball State's baseball program at the time was not anything new. Well, at least
I would say they weren't winning anything. They had some players, but they weren't winning anything at the time.
All right. But now,
but the coach,
is it true that it's known as a baseball school?
Yes, I would say it is because, they have Coach Maloney who was there. Then he went to Michigan. Now he's back at Ball State. Mm-hmm. And my coach was Greg Bills, who after I was there, he went to Ohio State, and he coached at Ohio State for 12 years.
Okay.
Which is, I've had, my football coach, Brady Hoke, coach at Michigan, and my baseball coach at Ohio State. But once they told me that I wasn't going to be, there was no QB competition, and I just wasn't going to be playing, and I was just going to be a backup, I reached out, and Coach Beals was like, sure, we've already had our tryouts, but you can come throw, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see what you got.
Yeah, and it was not good. Thank God he let me throw for like a week because the first 4 or 5 days, it looked like I never played baseball before.
How did you handle that personally? Did you feel like inadequate, or
it sucks because I was telling all these baseball players when I got on campus, like, yeah, I'm playing football, but I was like really good at baseball, and they're like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah. And then I proved their suspicions of like, okay, this kid does not know how to play baseball.
On those first couple, but man, that you realize, hey, I'm not going to be the quarterback at Ball State. Yeah. Here I am at Ball State. Now I'm going to throw my hat in the ring in a sport that,
I've taken 2 years off. Yeah. Clearly, it's
so that was a pivotal point for you in your life.
It was scary. Yeah. I felt like a failure for football. Mm-hmm. Didn't earn a scholarship. Didn't earn a position to play on the field, and and Daniel was there, and he's like excelling and doing well. Yeah. And I was happy for him, but I was just like, man, I saw us both. Coming? I saw eventually I'm supposed to be throwing passes to Daniel.
Right.
But, long story short, I just prayed and, not saying God was like, hey, we're going to let him throw strikes this day. Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
I mean, he did. I was throwing it. I was not throwing the baseball good enough that I couldn't even throw with a partner. They just had me throwing it to the net. And then miraculously on the 6th or 7th day, coach was like, "Hey, we'll give you a chance off the mound." And then I'm throwing 91 to 93 strikes. And I'm like, because as I was doing it, they're laughing. And I'm like, guys, stop laughing. Like, I'm going to stop throwing. They're like, no, keep throwing, keep throwing. And it turns out I was 91, 93. I threw like 8 pitches. And they were like, welcome to the team. And I was like,
What? Now, had you seen 90 in high school?
yeah. I think I topped out at 94 in high school.
Okay.
But it was rare. It wasn't like I was usually like 88, 90, 88, 91 in high school.
So we know, and those of you at home that are watching, a lot of times we know Percy from the height of your career.
Yes.
And I think there's something to be said about facing that adversity, that even people that reach the pinnacle still have challenges and face that. I couldn't imagine. My heart almost hurts for the younger Percy because, man, that's some stuff. And then
if you knew what was going through my mind, even all the way up until 2016.
And you alluded to praying. So did you have a relationship or did you have a faith in college? And how did that impact?
So, I had family, my Aunt Susie and my Grandma Donnie, they were angels the way I looked at it. And I go, well, I'm probably not going to be like them. I'll go to church, but I'm not going to be as good as them. Their relationship is on a different level with God. And then my dad got saved. So I'd never seen my Aunt Susie or Grandma Donnie do anything wrong. So I was just like, well, they were born into God's family. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's for me. And then I saw my dad go from, drinking, smoking weed, doing all the things, partying.
Yeah.
To changing everything about his life, going to church, changing who he's hanging out with, changing what music he's listening to.
How old were you when that happened?
I was around 4th grade, I think.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, this is real.
Age,
yeah, I was like, this is real. That's when I dove deep into the church. And I had a moment, obviously, when I got to college. I was like, but my moment, I hate saying this, but for me, I knew that I wasn't right with God the way I was walking, but it still looked okay to the world because I still wasn't drinking or doing none of that stuff.
Gotcha.
But, those aren't the only 2 sins you can do.
No, but if it makes you feel any better, I made up for you.
Yeah.
Okay? I danced a little bit longer with the devil and a little bit faster.
Well, I want to clear, drinking, I don't look at as a sin, obviously. But it's just
in excess, which typically is associated with college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so since I wasn't doing that, then I must be, I'm going to heaven, I'm good. But obviously that we know that's not how it works. But I got back in towards the end of my college career. In 2011 is when I really made that same change that my dad made. And I call it the 180 change where you just like, okay, I'm doing this now. So, it was a struggle, but, I always made it back and I had a good foundation and support always.
So,
but yeah.
Would it be safe to say you met Jesus back on the mound? Because you said 2011.
Yeah, I was a pro by that time.
That's a great story for a book, by the way.
Yeah, I know. And Josh, my producer who does the Dogs podcast, he's always been getting on me to write a book.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he knew all this stuff. He was only 1 year younger than me, and he played sports with me. He grew up playing baseball with me and all this stuff. And he was just like, what? Because he was producing all my podcasts, all like the first 100 some episodes, he was producing those. Mm-hmm. And, him hearing me share this stuff, he's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But
I'd buy the book, that's for sure.
I appreciate that.
I'd buy a couple. Maybe an audiobook too, if you do the audiobook. For those of you that I don't really like to do.
I mean, AI has great capability of that probably.
You got a beautiful.
Yeah, you got to do it in a Morgan Freeman voice or something.
So fast forward, your pro career you got drafted in 2010.
Yeah, I got drafted in 2010 by the Philadelphia Phillies, 2nd round draft pick, and that was all because my first year playing baseball after I joined the team, they took it easy with me, and then I played summer ball. They made me play summer ball. Obviously, I needed work, and I got top right-handed pitching prospect out of the league. And I was just playing at Walsh's Field. I played for the Stark County Terriers. Okay. Just a college little summer league.
Shout out to the Stark County Terriers. Yeah. You got some good ball players that play.
Yeah, well, now I don't think they have a college team. Now it's like a youth program. So you can play in it when you're in middle school or something like that. Travel team. I've seen some players that play for the Stark County Terriers at Mazzarelli's. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all happening. And it's just once I got named top right-handed prospect out of that league, it just changed. They were like, "Oh, you're looking to get drafted. You're probably going to get drafted this year." But I was like, "I'm coming back," because they were like, it'll be around the 40th round." This is back when they had 50 rounds.
Dang.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's not going to happen. But then Ball State, Papa John's went to Ball State, and then he also did his graduate schooling at Louisville. So there's kind of like a little thing there. So we're playing Louisville, and they got the Papa John Stadium for football and baseball. Ball State was supposed to get that, but that's another story for a different day. And they have 9 All-Americans. Every scout in the world is at this game to watch one player on my team who is not me. His name was Colburn Vidic, who was a big-time recruit but came to Ball State because they let him hit. Every other school wanted to let him pitch. And to see that to every player on Louisville's team, they were undefeated. They were 17-0, ranked 7th in the nation. And Colburn starts that game. So it was the perfect time. But in my mind, I'm a goofy kid. My pitching coach comes to me and is like, "Hey, if you throw harder than their starter, I'll give you a king-size Snickers bar." I'm like, "Bet." So that was my focus. I'm trying to give me a king-size Snickers bar. You know what I'm saying? I'm a broke college student. I'll take free food where I can get it. So I'm thinking, hey, this guy's a USA pitcher. So I'm like, I'm going to throw it really hard today. And there's some other stuff behind the story and why I threw harder, but it's something I learned, what I tell a lot of my baseball students. But I used to try to save my bullets. I didn't want to waste my arm. So in turn, I really wasn't warming up. Gotcha. But this game, I didn't think I was pitching, and I was warming up. So I was getting after it. And he comes out to me. He's like, "Yeah, throw harder in the pitcher, and we'll get you king-size Snickers bar." So that's on the line. Colburn throws 5 great innings. I come in for the last 4. I'm hitting 98. I'm striking out all these All-Americans. I don't know I'm hitting 98. Yeah. It's just there's an adrenaline rush when you see all the radar guns go up at the same time. All the stands behind you, and my catching. For those listening audio-wise, and maybe on the video, my catcher would give me this sign. This usually means plunk the guy.
Yeah,
but for me, that meant just let it all hang out. Throw it as hard as you can. We don't care where it goes. And I'm just like...
That's how you interpreted this.
Yeah, and that's what he gave me. And I was just and it was a different level. Never thrown 98 before. I think 95 was my highest before that. But that day, I was juiced.
That's awesome.
Figuratively speaking, not steroids.
No, yeah. So would you say that's your most notable performance that you had at Ball State, you think?
For sure. I mean... After that, I became the Friday night starter. When we played league games, I was the number 1 starter.
Yeah, I saw that in your bio, the Friday night starter.
Yeah, so in college, Friday night starter means...
That's pretty fitting for a football guy.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
But that means you're the number 1 starter. The only reason Colburn couldn't be because he played position 2. So he would start on Sunday. Because if he pitched on Friday, he'd probably be out of commission.
Right.
So I became the number 1 starter for Ball State, and I had some great... games. But yeah, the Louisville game was the one that just put me on trajectory to get drafted because I went from 40th round to the top 5 rounds just from that one game.
Wow.
It's a big...
Good for you. That's impressive.
Yeah, and then the rest was history. I kept doing that. Big time pro scouts were coming to watch me and Colburn now.
Yeah.
I thought he got drafted first round, and then I got drafted second round. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Wait.
Hey, Mattcast family. I'm Ryan McClellan with Right Mark Roofing. We're a company grounded in faith, family, and service. We believe in doing honest work, treating people right, and showing up when it matters. Because that's what strong families and strong communities do. If your roof needs attention, I'd be honored to help. Feel free to email me or text me. My contact information will be listed below. Thank you and enjoy this episode.
Thanks so much, Percy, for joining us today. If you guys liked what you heard today, you can catch Percy at 99 mile an hour with Perci Garner on all of the social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, all of the audio apps, Apple and Spotify. Again, if you want to check out Percy, check out his 99 mile an hour. It is one you don't want to miss.
If you want to check out what Percy's talking about, I'm going to link it with my Amazon affiliate link in the description. Go ahead and click on that and get you some.